Good morning, Shabbat Shalom. So in our tradition, we believe that God is invisible, that no one has ever actually seen God, including Moses. It says that Moses only saw God, say, from behind, but God never saw Moses face to face. For a long time, though, Jews believed that God actually had a body, but that we couldn't see it. And there's actually a book of early Jewish mysticism called Shiur Koma, which they give all of God's measurements, like how big God's eye was, how big God's nose was. And honestly, there are parts of that book, once you see it, you're never going to be okay because it's all of God. God is a dude, according to the book. If you just want to sit with it so you can be just as disturbed as I am saying it, you're welcome to. But we do believe that God is invisible because no one can say that God looks more like one person than another, that God belongs to a particular race or ethnicity or culture, that God is invisible. And by the time you get to the Middle Ages, Maimonides says that God doesn't even have a body at all. And we sing about that every Friday night. You may not realize that Yigdal is based on Maimonides' 13 principles, and one of them is Ein lo demut haguf ve'eino guf. God not only has no image of God, but God doesn't have a physicality whatsoever. So if God is invisible and God has no physical body, then why does the Torah portion begin, Vayera elav Adonai, that God appeared to Abraham? God's invisible. God doesn't have a body. Yet God appears to Abraham. And I was thinking about this when I remembered a story my father told me about growing up in a little shtetl, in a little village in Eastern Europe. The village started off in Czechoslovakia. It moved to Romania, removed to Hungary, and is now sitting in a little part of the Ukraine. Didn't actually move, but every time I wanted to look up what was going on in the village, someone else was in charge of it. But at the time, it was Czechoslovakia when he was growing up. It was eventually taken over by Hungary, and obviously they're very stressful there. A lot of became very poor, became very challenging. And what his father told my father is that whenever you see a beggar, always help the beggar, because that person's actually Elijah the prophet. And there's a whole tradition of stories of Elijah appearing to people as an opportunity for kindness, as an opportunity for compassion. And I think that this is what the Torah portion is talking about, is that God appears to us through opportunities for compassion, that God appears to us sometimes as people, but who are actually agents of the divine. And this is what's happening with Abraham and Sarah, where these three people appear to Abraham and Sarah. So it says God appears, but what actually appears are these three people, and the word that's used here is anashim. Abraham and Sarah see them as people, but also knowing that they are agents of the divine just because they are people in need. And they are able to look past the surface and to actually see the soul, to see the spirit of the people there. And they make sure that these three are taken care of properly. They feed them, they give them hospitality, they give them a sense of dignity. And what's powerful here, and I think that one of the lessons that I try to take out of this, is that seeing people in this way, even people who are difficult, even people who are unlikable, it's seeing the divinity in them makes your life a lot better than seeing everyone as someone trying to cheat you or make your life miserable or out to get you or as an enemy. This doesn't mean that there aren't people out to get you. There are, right? It's a crazy world. And there's a lot of danger, there's a lot of challenging things. But when you start seeing everyone who's different from you as someone out to get you, you are just going to be miserable, and you are going to make everyone else around you miserable. And one day you're going to wake up and you're going to wonder, where did everyone go? I've had more than one person at the end of their lives say, everyone abandoned me. So they didn't abandon you, you pushed them out. Because you saw in them lack. You saw in them not doing enough for you. You saw in them someone out to get you, and they had enough. So Abraham and Sarah saw the good in others so they could find a way to live more happily themselves. And this is the exact opposite of what happens with Sodom and Gomorrah. You have these two people who show up at Sodom and Gomorrah needing hospitality and needing shelter. So when they appear to Abraham and Sarah, the word used is anashim. They appear as humans, and Abraham and Sarah sees the divine in these people. But when they appear in Sodom and Gomorrah, they appear as melachim. They're angels. They show up as angels, but the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were so self-centered, so believed that everyone was out to get them, that they couldn't even see the angels as agents of the divine. They just saw them as a burden. And ultimately, Sodom and Gomorrah is really destroyed because they see everybody as a liability. They see everyone as someone who's taking away from them. Abraham knew that the more he gave to the stranger, the richer his life became. Sodom and Gomorrah said the more we give to the stranger, the worse our life becomes. It's really a matter of attitude. It's a matter of an approach to life. We can't change everything about the world. In fact, there's not a lot about the world we really can change. There's stuff going on in the world that I really do not like, I do not feel comfortable with, and I feel very worried about. But I am trying not to let that change how I view people in general. I need to be able to see the divine in people, or my own soul is going to shrivel up. In fact, one of the practices I've adopted is that when I am with someone I truly do not like. We're good here, by the way. But if I'm having a conversation with someone that I am not enjoying the conversation, or it's a painful conversation, or I find it all very difficult, what I try to do is say to myself, I hear the divine speaking through you. Just say it to myself. I don't say it out loud because that would be really weird. But even if I'm having a discussion with someone and I'm really not enjoying how it's going, I try to say to myself, I hear the divine speaking through you, and it calms me down. Maybe even within this difficult relationship or this difficult conversation, there's something I still need to learn. There's something I still need to hear. And that's actually made a difference for me in my own anxiety levels of how I get through the world. So how we see other people really does have a very deep difference in our lives. When we see danger, when we see hate everywhere, when we have contempt and loathing for everyone who doesn't think the way we do, our lives really become very narrow and become very bitter, and it becomes a prison for our soul. But when we see possibility in others, when we see possibility in the world, even when things are scary and difficult, we remain open and free. Shabbat Shalom.